You are now being recorded. This is
All right.
I'm Coach Miner. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited to hear from a guy that I've known for a while, but I'm excited to hear a little bit more about his journey and how he's come from playing and into coaching and all that. So, Coach Uhl, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Coach Miner, thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
It's going to be fun. It'll be a great conversation, and we got some kids listening all over the place, from North Carolina to New Mexico to Hawaii. So all the way from the East Coast, 3 hours ahead of where I'm at, which I think you're calling in. You're checking in from the East Coast, right, Coach?
Yep. Yeah, Pennsylvania, Washington, Pennsylvania. So 5:15 here.
5:15, just 2:15 here. So, and then in Hawaii, it's probably like noon 15 maybe. So all time zones covered, but thanks for joining me. So Coach Uhl, I know we connected when you were at Cal Lutheran, but do you want to take a little bit from kind of your background, high school, where you went to college, and then talk to the guys that are listening through kind of your journey to where you're at now?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up on Long Island in New York. I graduated from small high school, Comswog High School in Port Jeff Station in 2010. Played at Mount St. Mary College, a Division III school in Newburgh, New York, in the Skyline Conference from 2010 to 2014. Graduated obviously in 2014 and just took a normal job at a hospital and got approached the following year about coaching at my high school and took the JV job there for a year and kind of realized right away that this is what I wanted to do. So was able to obviously stay in touch with my college coach and some people that I met from playing at Mount St. Mary, and was put in contact with Tim Fusina, who at the time was the head coach at Centenary University in Hackettstown, New Jersey. I was really lucky. Tim took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity at 23 to join his staff at Centenary. A place where they were doing things there that they had never done before. So it was a great opportunity for me to kind of step into, a situation where they were ready to win right away. And then after a year at Centenary, Tim got the job at Cal Lutheran. And I went out there with Tim to Thousand Oaks, California, which was a little bit different of an experience than anything I've ever done. And after 2 years at Cal Lutheran, I decided to come back this way to Waynesburg University in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. Be back in a region that I felt comfortable in, be back near my family, different reasons, life reasons, really. And just an opportunity to kind of root yourself a little bit and kind of figure out where you're going to be for, the foreseeable future. So yeah, that's it. Three schools in 5 years, different regions, different areas of the country. I've been really lucky. It's been a really good experience for me.
I'll tell you this though, man, luck favors the prepared. And
absolutely.
You can credit to luck, but you've worked really hard, and I know you've prepared. And I know the teams, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about how we've played against each other when you're at Cal Lu, and your team was prepared as anybody to go against the system. And especially That was your guys' first year there, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I know what we do is we want to make it tough on the other team, and they have to prepare for us. So what was the biggest difference you saw coming from playing on the East Coast, coaching on the East Coast, high school for a year, college for a year? What was the biggest differences you saw between East Coast basketball, Division III, and West Coast basketball, Division III?
Yeah. Well, obviously basketball is basketball, right? I mean, it's going to be relatively similar everywhere you go. But I think a stark difference between the two styles is probably when I got out to California, just the perimeter oriented player was of all sizes. You don't see that a whole lot on the East Coast. And I think the game is going that way where, the 6'7", 6'8" guys can step outside and play a little bit differently than, maybe 10 years ago. But, that was the perimeter oriented style of the game, was pretty uniform out there. And I think here you see a lot more traditional, 3 out, 2 in, big guys playing near the basket, a lot more, throw it inside type of games where, on the West Coast, I think you see a lot more teams try to spread you out and drive you and do different things. So from a basketball standpoint, I'd say that philosophy is a little bit different on each coast.
That's interesting. No, I hadn't. I mean, I knew we were going to more of a 5 out, and some of it's just based on personnel, right? I mean,
of course, right.
But there's not as many posts out here. There's a lot of guards. So if you're watching this and you're a guard, it's going to be harder for you to play in college than if you're 6'8". And I know that's tough to hear from some kids, but I think, can you agree with that, Coach?
Absolutely. Everybody's looking for 2 things: size and scoring, right? That's it. So it's a lot harder to get noticed at 6 foot than it is at 6'8". I agree.
But I'll tell you, it's not impossible. I'm 6'2". I was a Division I basketball player, and I'm definitely not your stereotypical Division I basketball player, but I can say as a former Division I athlete, it can be done at 6 foot. I'm 6'2". It's the best kid I guarded every day in practice was listed at 5'10". That was being generous. So Pooh Jeter, shout out Pooh Jeter, played for the Sacramento Kings for a year, still playing in China. Great teammate, great guy, but he wasn't very big. So it's possible, but it's going to be tougher. So you're going to have to do things that differentiate yourself. So one of the things I always talk about is the production versus problem scale. If you're not producing as much as the problems that you're creating, teams don't need you. So I know that's something, even at the D3 level, you have to be able to be zero risk off the floor. You have to take care of business in the classroom. So you have to be a great student. You have to make sure that you're not getting in trouble off the floor. Those things are all really important when it comes to improving your chances to play in college. So Coach, tell us a little bit about what, I know a lot of these kids that are on the line or that are watching on replay want to get recruited, want to play in college, want to do the things necessary, but they might just not know what those things are. What type of advice or what type of suggestions would you give to a kid that's wanting to play in college that's listening right now?
Sure. Well, I mean, the first thing is how different recruiting is now than it has been ever because of everything that's going on, in our country and the world. So a majority of your initial contact with the staff is probably going to be via email. And my biggest advice when it comes to that is probably being able to send an email, because Coach, you and I both know when we get an email that's gone to 300 coaches, right? Don't send form letters to college basketball coaches. It's a lot easier for us to get rid of those than it is someone who we know, or we can tell by reading the first couple lines of the email that they've researched Waynesburg, they've researched our program, they've researched our staff, they know who we are and where we're at on a map, they can pick it out. But in terms of what we look for when we're recruiting, obviously the first thing is the talent, right? I mean, that's what's going to get you your foot in the door. Can you do something better than guys that A, we're recruiting, or B, that are already on our roster? And that can be any transferable skill. Can you shoot it better than guys that we have? Can you guard better than guys we have? Do you rebound better? Whatever it is. And that's obviously, like I said, the first piece of the puzzle. And then, as we go through the process, really what we're looking for are good people. And I think that when you look at the best programs at Division III, they're built with high academic 4-year guys. They're built with guys, you look at Williams, Amherst, the NESCAC, whoever it is, teams that compete for national championships on a yearly basis. Whitman, Claremont, right? To talk a little bit about the West Coast. Those programs are littered with seniors that have been there for 4 years that are great students and good guys. So, we're looking to bring those kind of guys into our program because we know that at this level, that's how you win. So like Coach said, making sure that you're taking care of business in the classroom, making sure that you're going to be a low risk guy, and you're going to come in and you're going to work and the biggest problem that we might have with you is your ability to pick up an offensive concept or maybe have to teach you how to guard a little bit. We don't really have time as a staff to worry about other things. So those are the two things I'd say. Obviously having a transferable skill and then being a good person and being able to be counted on by a staff.
You said need low risk guys. I think a lot of kids that I talk to understand kind of that business concept. And if you're a risk, you better be a high return, right?
Right.
So
absolutely,
it better be a high return. I'm not going to risk me getting fired for somebody that's average ability or talent. And maybe kind of an adult grown-up lesson, you guys, but if you're not 6'11", if you're 6'11" and you jump out of the gym, you can get away with having a little more risk. But for most people that are listening to this, you got to make sure that you're doing nothing that's going to cause the coaches a headache. Because there's nothing I like less than a kid that's having to check with his professors because they're not passing classes. Those are headaches that I don't need. So if you can do things, or if you're able to prevent those things, do it. Don't be a risk in the classroom. Don't be a risk off the floor. I think that's something that's really important. And a lot of the guys listening, I know Kenji's heard me say that stuff before. And I know, Evan, I've stressed the academic piece to all these guys because it gives you more options.
Absolutely.
More options. And I know Division III, not being allowed to offer athletic scholarships, the academic piece is huge. Can you talk a little bit about that, Coach, about how the merit scholarships might work at the Division III and maybe at Waynesburg, or what it was like at Cal Lu, or even, what you know about from playing? Talk a little bit about how the scholarships work at the D3 level.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's essentially a scale where, depending on your GPA or your SAT and ACT scores, depending on the school that you're going to, the higher those numbers are, the more money you're going to get academically. And that's obviously important for a number of reasons. Obviously, our goal as a staff is to make sure we're bringing guys in that can come to Waynesburg, can handle the academic workload, and can graduate on time with a degree that they choose, going to do whatever it is that they want to do after college. So if that's grad school, great. Let's set you up with grad school. If that's playing after college and you're good enough and you have those opportunities, that's great too. If you want to coach, let's try to set you up to do whatever it is that you want to do. And those opportunities are a lot easier to come across when you're not graduating with $80, $90, $100,000 in debt. So to take care of your grades now, and have a higher GPA and do well on the SAT and the ACT, you're going to have an opportunity to go to a school that's going to fit, not just athletically, not just academically, but financially for your family as well. At Waynesburg, we won't recruit anybody with below a 3.3. Anybody below a 3.3, we talk about them. Again, like Coach said, if he's 6'11" and he can jump out of the gym and he's got a 2.8, we'll talk to him. But for the most part, that's kind of our cutoff, because we know how much we cost. We know what kind of scholarship he'll get. based on just data and experience from the last year and a half. And we're probably not looking at guys below that 3.3. And that's been pretty similar everywhere I've been. Cal Lutheran was around the same. Centenary, we could get guys in a little bit lower. And probably at Mount St. Mary, you could probably do the same thing. But that's kind of where we fall, with what we will recruit. Because again, the goal is to get you out on time with as little debt as possible, going to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Hopefully, I know Caleb's taking notes because he's a standout freshman, but I think that just hearing that from a current college coach, from an associate head college coach that's under 30, that knows kind of what it's like to be in your guys' position, I think if you guys don't heed that warning to be above, and let me just ask you a direct question. So you're saying that the higher their grades are, the more money they'll qualify for. Is that right, Coach?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the higher, and I can speak to that too as a fellow coach, I know, so it's not just coming from AJ, but the higher your grades are, Coach just said absolutely, the more money you'll get to go to college. So obviously, I think people understand it's better to be intelligent than not. But if that's not enough to motivate you, think about that you can get more money. More money is better than less money. And if you disagree, I'll give you my address and you can send me money. But I think everybody on the call can agree that it's better to have it than not have it. And so if you can get it in scholarships because you excelled before you got to college, that's even better. Some kids want to wait or think that, I'm working a minimum wage job, but my grades are suffering. Take care of business in the classroom. I stress that at every call, and some of the guys that I work with are tired of hearing it, but I'm glad that you can echo that the better their grades are, the more money they'll get to go to your university. So true.
Yeah.
Well, let's see, who do we got? Kenji, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a delay while I get ready to ask you what question you have for Coach. So I'm going to kind of prepare you. This is your time. Kenji, I know you already introduced yourself, but go ahead and give Coach a question here when you're ready.
I just wanted to ask, being a smaller point guard, what kind of qualities do you look for in your point guard, especially if he's undersized?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way that we play, and I can talk a little bit about that, we're a motion team. So we don't really number our guys. We don't have point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, stuff like that. We really go perimeter and post at Waynesburg. But obviously we have specific guys on the floor that we want to handle the ball against pressure and different things like that. And being a smaller guy, I think some of the things that you can control, because you can't control that, unfortunately. If you did, everybody'd be walking around at 6'8". But I think that
I'd be closer to 7.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
Play than I am coaching, but you're right.
I think the biggest thing is again, being great in the classroom is something that's going to catch the eye of a coach. Because again, just speaking about that low risk guy. But on the floor, you got to be able to shoot it. You got to be able to make shots from all over the place. Open shots from a guy that's 6 foot or under is incredibly important. You got to be able to guard. You got to be able to, guard the full length of the floor. Because again, what you're going to give up in, your size in the half court, hopefully you're able to make up for it with your ability to pick up and pressure the ball a little bit. And then obviously just being a extension of our staff on the floor. Because, Coach Miner can speak to this. There's a 1,000 different things going on during a game. It's really beneficial when the guy with the ball in his hands can slow everybody down and get people in spots and, try to figure out what we're trying to get done on a given possession. Takes the pressure off of me, takes the pressure off my boss, it takes the pressure off of everybody in the gym. So, just those things, really being able to shoot it, being able to guard, being able to handle, and just being a general on the floor and being able to, just extend the staff to the other 4 guys on the floor with you. That's a really good question.
Thanks, Kenji. I think, no risk in the classroom is the first thing coach said. Got to be able to shoot it. These are things you can control by working in the classroom, by working on your shooting, by working on guarding, being able to defend 94 feet. Communicate. I think you kind of said that. I think that's something I look for as a guard that can communicate, because that's something we're all capable of. Being able to lead and extend the staff onto the court. That's great. Good stuff. So now I'm going to go over to, let's see, Evan. Are you ready? Evan, what do you got for coach?
You talked about a couple of skills, but what do you think is like the most important skill, like specifically one skill on court?
If you can't guard, you can't play in college. And that's as blunt and honest as I'm going to be. Because even if you're an above average scorer, if you're somebody that can really make shots and can get to the basket and get to the free throw line and make free throws and really, really score the ball, there's going to be nights where you struggle. That's the game. Your offensive production is going to dip. It's going to be great one night. It could be really bad the next night. But your ability to guard, your ability to keep the basketball in front of you, rebound, wrap up possessions, that's something, again, that you can control on a daily basis. There's no, once you shoot the ball, there's a 50-50 chance whether or not it's going in. But when you're guarding, everything is up to you, your effort, your intensity, your ability to move laterally, just different things that you can control on that end of the floor. So if I had to pick one ability or attribute, it would be just being able to guard on a consistent basis.
Did I get you, Evan? You got that written down? Defend? All right, good.
And it's funny because in college, I really couldn't defend. So, it's funny how it changes from being a guy that wanted to score the ball a bunch to now you're coaching and you're really that's your secondary worry.
But do you think you would have played more in college had you been able to defend better?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was something that I probably didn't understand until probably my junior year when I started getting regular time was, I was a liability my first year and a half as a college player on the defensive end of the floor. And I could really shoot the ball. I could stretch the defense. And I could do some different things on the offensive end of the floor, but defensively was a struggle for me. And once I kind of figured it out, saw my time, double, triple from what it was as a freshman and a sophomore to my senior year when I became a starter. So absolutely.
Great. Caleb, do you have anything you want to ask Coach?
Yeah, so when you played college basketball, like how much times a day did you practice and like what did your schedule look like?
As a player?
Yeah, as a player.
Yeah. It's a commitment and I'll tell you that it's a lot. You're going to practice 6 days a week. You're probably going to practice twice on either Saturday or Sunday. And that's probably in the early portion of your season before you start playing games. But you're going to have some kind of basketball responsibility at least 6 days a week. It's a commitment, but for somebody that cares about the game and enjoys it and loves it, it's not too much. I think that in order to be able to improve and do different things, you have to be able to probably sacrifice a little bit of some of those things that that you might want to do or you think you might want to do, and really focus on basketball and kind of, give up the now for later kind of thing. Just having that self-discipline and getting yourself in the gym when maybe you don't feel like you want to, or maybe it's not comfortable that day, or you're sore, you're tired, or you had a late night, or you had a test yesterday, and you just want to hang out with your friends and play video games or do something like that. The opportunity to get in the gym and get better on at your game is going to be what's able to separate you from other people.
Great answer. Great answer. Great question, Caleb. Thanks. I think sacrifice the things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Coach said that. I can't echo that enough. Sacrifice the things that don't matter, especially in the long term. Sacrifice the now for what's the most important. Don't give up on the things that are important. Sacrifice. So you got to give up some things that you don't think maybe matter at the time, or that you think matter at the time that don't. If you play more than 3 or 4 hours of Fortnite or 2K, you're wasting your time and you need to change. And I know that's hard for some kids to hear because not everybody, but pretty much everybody I know gets addicted to video games. So self-discipline is something else he said. So thanks, Kenji. Appreciate you, Evan. Jace or Coach Mitchell or Damien, does anybody have anything else that they want to ask Coach before we zip it up and zip it out? Go ahead. If you have anything, you can unmute. Give you guys a count of 3, 2, 1.
I have a question. I'll
Coach,
ask.
I hear you.
So how are you finding recruiting? I know you talked about what you guys are looking for and with the letters and standing out, and obviously in the predicament that we're in with COVID and everything else going on in the nation. I'm assuming that many recruiters aren't actually getting out to the actual games to recruit. So how important and what style of film would you recommend people sending to you? How long should highlight reels be? Are you looking for full game footage or just a kind of a mix of shots and defense and teamwork? What exactly are you looking for kids that are trying to send film out to you?
That's a great question, because obviously recruiting is different now, like I said earlier, than it ever has been before. I think a highlight film in an initial introduction email is fine for first impression purposes. But nothing longer than 2.5 minutes. I think that's probably enough time. And the biggest thing, and Coach Miner can speak to this as well. You have to kind of make that video stand out in the first 30 to 35 seconds, or more than likely you're going to lose that coach's interest. So ditch like the player introduction or anything like that. That's anything that isn't a transferable skill to the college level. Get rid of it. You don't need it. We want to see guys make shots. We want to see guys make plays. We want to see charges, guys diving on the floor, something that makes you stand out in that initial highlight video. And then if you are able to get an answer from a college coach, somebody that is interested in you, I think if it's not asked for by the coach himself or herself, I think that follow-up email, I have full game. If you'd like to see it, I can send it and kind of go from there. But the way that we do it at Waynesburg is, we'll watch a highlight film. We'll talk about it as a staff. Is this somebody that we think can play at our level, in our league, at our school, in our system? And if the answer is yes to those things, then we'll reach out and kind of start getting to know that person. But a lot of it's done now this year. A lot more of it, at least, is done, via email and just coach recommendations from AAU and high school coaches. Than it is going to an event or going, like you said, to a game and watching somebody and making that evaluation initially yourself. But I think a well thought out email to that specific coaching staff, to that institution, with your grades, your intended major, coach contact information, and a highlight film. I don't think, and coach, you can add something if I forgot it, but I don't really think we're looking for much else, at least from that introduction email. So.
Absolutely. I think that's a great question, Coach Rebecca. I think, and I've said it before, but you have to be uncommon, right? Like you can't be like every other email.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you, Coach, but I'm getting 15 maybe emails a day from kids that want to play. And we're not schools, right? So imagine scholarship schools.
Right, exactly.
Right? So I think I love that you said you must have their transferable skills. So I had one video that had charge. The first 5 seconds were 4 charges. And I was like, this is unique, right? Because I also watched the bench.
Right.
I've never seen a highlight film with a kid miss a shot. So how is it reacting, right? So if the bench is all standing up, like, let's go, then probably it's not the first time he's made a 3 all year. Because I can still look good in the highlight, and I'm 37 now. So it's important to try to do things different than what every other video I'm getting has. So I think having transferable skills, and then also know who you're working with. What type of connections do the coaches that you're working with have? Because there's certain coaches that I know if they say take a look at a kid, I'm going to look. And there's certain coaches that I don't know that I might not give a kid a look because I don't know that coach yet. Or maybe they just have somebody negative in the past that hasn't worked out. So make sure you know who you're working with. I think that's a good point to add to that.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on to that, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but researching the school is incredibly important. I can't tell you how many emails I get that tell me, my name is so-and-so and I want to major in engineering and I'd love to do it at Waynesburg. Well, we don't have an engineering major here. So you can't do that here. Again, avoiding that form letter and just knowing who you're talking to and what schools you're sending specific emails to is incredibly important. Or I get I'd love to play at X institution and it says a different college than Waynesburg. So, just really making sure, you're sending the emails to the staffs that you want to talk to and you're doing your due diligence on the school that you're trying to, make a connection with.
That's great. I love that. It always cracks me up when I see ones that say, "Dear coach, I want to play at your school."
Yeah.
Congrats on a great season last year. Really? We didn't have that great of a season last year. So maybe you're looking at a different school, or I want, like you said, major in engineering, have engineering. So like do your research. That's a stress. But well, hey coach, I really appreciate you taking some time and hopping on. It's great to reconnect with you. I know we had some battles that year at Cal Lu, and hopefully we'll see you at this D3 national tournament the next year they have it. Hopefully we have it this year.
Yeah.
We're still not canceled.
Fingers crossed, man.
Yeah, but we're staying positive and we're staying adaptable and trying to do what we can do to try to build something special. And I know you're doing the same. You guys are going into your second year now?
Second year. Yep. Yeah.
Second year. So changing it and bringing, I know we're in our third year, so just it's a process, but I know there's, I appreciate your time today and I'm looking forward to staying in touch. And if there's ever anything I can do to help you, definitely reach out. And thanks for the guys that were on the call and asking questions, and let's go Boxers, and let's see you guys at the national tournament, huh?
I got one more. I got a question. I have a
One more.
question.
Sure.
What's the difference? I already know coaches minors, but how do you distinguish between recruiting a kid or liking a kid and talk to them about their social media, how important it is to have that cleaned up?
Oh, absolutely. Again, I think that ties into just the low risk guy. Now when you get an email about a kid and you Google his name, the first thing that comes up is his Twitter, right? Or I might even go to Twitter before I even go to Google and type a kid's name in and see what comes up. Having a clean social media, understanding that as an athlete, especially at a small Division III institution, you're going to be under a microscope. So we don't want anybody that we have to, police or tell them, hey, we don't even talk to our guys about social media because we know we have the people that, don't post things that they shouldn't post or like things or share things that they shouldn't. That's a non-starter. If we saw something alarming on a kid's social media, that would be a reason why we could just cross somebody's name right off our list. That's a huge point, Coach. That's a really good point.
And just to not like things, I mean, just be cautious, think about what
absolutely
people want you to see. Don't do anything that's going to embarrass me, you, or your parents or your program, and we'll be good. But you never know what's going to embarrass me. So that's where you have to be careful. But that's a good question. Maybe follow up on that question a little bit. The difference between being like recruited by somebody, like how does that really go? Like, obviously you kind of see that initial email and you start to get interested. And then at what point would you say you're really kind of like recruiting a kid?
Right. Yeah. And Coach, I'm sure you've gone through the same thing. The whole offer thing at the Division III level now is it's crazy. I think one thing that we do a really good job of as a staff is communicating with our top guys that we think can make an impact right away, how badly we want them, and a legitimate plan that we have for them to get on the floor as freshmen or to impact our program. So guys, if you're dealing with a staff that wants you, you'll know. You will know because they will tell you. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I can do, that I can tell you is, if a coach, if you're hearing from the head coach, because Tim is talking to our top guys, that's who he's talking to. As the recruiting coordinator of our staff, it's my job to make sure that, we're talking to enough people, but it's also important to make sure that the best players that we're recruiting are hearing from the head coach the most. So if you're hearing from the head coach and they've experienced that they want you at their school, you'll know it based on the way the conversations are going with the staff. If they're talking about tryouts or they're talking about we have a JV program or things like that, then there might be some follow-up questions that you need to ask about where you fit on the board or in their program.
Good point. Does that kind of get to what you're asking there, Coach Mitchell?
Yeah.
I have kind of a follow-up question related to that. So with young athletes being more involved in world issues, nation issues, knowing the kids that I work with, from high school to a college level, and the NBA getting very politically involved in their statements. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this properly, but how do you feel? There's a lot of guys that I know that are making statements on their social media pages as far as supporting one group or another. So is that something that as a college coach and a college recruiter that you would see that and possibly say, we're looking for someone who's kind of more non-biased, or does that make any difference at all? Is that something that the kids should maybe steer clear of and keep it strictly sports, or how do you feel about that on the social media aspect?
Yeah, that's you know, we as a staff, as a university, you know, we definitely promote diversity, inclusion, and all that. So I have no issues with it with guys voicing their stance on political or social issues. My my stance on social media and what I was talking about earlier is probably more um, guided toward you know, not that stuff specifically, more about just different. I'm trying to think of how to word my answer.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you in a tough spot, but it is a hot topic right now.
No, absolutely. You know, I think that the stuff that you're talking about is fine because we want to make sure that guys are themselves and expressing themselves, and that's something that we promote in our program. The social media stuff, I think everybody that has it knows that there's a lot of garbage out there that they probably shouldn't be interacting with, and I guess that's more of what I meant. Not so much political or social issues, just more about you know, things that aren't relevant to who you are as a person. So be yourself on social media, but just understand that the things that you do post and like and retweet and all that stuff are going to be seen by a lot of people, and you have to use your better judgment when you do stuff like that.
Great answer. I like that.
Yeah, great answer, AJ. Great job. Way to throw the tough questions out there, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's good.
I
That's
mean,
It took me a little
we're
while
all
to get
thinking
there.
it. I feel like everybody wants to know because
Hey,
we're all so isolated. So
no, that was a great question, Rebecca. That was, and I can echo that just be cautious about what you represent on your social media. Don't, just because there's one post that stirs your emotions, don't share it if you don't want it to be representative of who you are. So you always remember that everything you post or everything you retweet can always be tied back to you. Even if you delete it, somebody could screenshot it. It can always be connected to you. So you're very cautious about what you stand up for and what you believe in. And don't just be swayed because of a flashy post or something that sounds good. Make sure you do your research for yourself and you stand up for the things in which you believe. So great question though, Rebecca. Well, hey guys, it's been fun. Out of respect for everybody's time, I know the guys back there in North Carolina are ready to get back to hooping. Let's go. And in Hawaii, you're about to get your day going, probably get some workouts in. So Coach Uhl, I do appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, Coach. This was great.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to catch up with you, hear a little bit more about your background and your story. And, you know, it was battle there against you at Cal-Lu, and hopefully we get to see you in the national tournament here in the next few years.
That sounds good. I'd be looking forward to that.
All right, sounds good. You take care. Be safe out there. Stay well.
Same to you, Coach.
So we're gonna stop the recording.